Welcome to the Six Figure Flipper Podcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with real estate investors from around the globe to empower you on your wealth building journey ahead. Here's your host, Matty A.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I'm actually really excited about this one because it's a conversation, it's a topic that most people just don't really understand. They think they might understand it, but when you hear about all the horror stories in real estate investing, whether you're a multifamily investor, whether you're a flipper, whether you're a wholesaler, oftentimes most of these horror stories are tied to the contractor. They're tied to the rehab process. And it is extremely critical, whether you are really, no matter what model you're doing, that you understand this process. Now, you don't need to be a construction expert, but you do need to align yourself with someone who is and be able to trust and, really rely on their judgment, right, in this case. And so I wanted to bring on an amazing guest or guests for you guys, Thompson Wolff Construction. These are two guys in my market here in Northern California, and they do all my flips. They've done hundreds of flips for myself, for other real estate investors as well. And these are actually, I'm partnered in their construction company. And these are two really, really savvy guys that they understand the real estate investing model. Yes, they can do the retail, we'll remodel your kitchen and we'll charge you top dollar for it. But they also understand the turn and burn model of real estate investors and the numbers that real estate investors take into account, and the finishes and the comps and all of the things that you need to really have your construction partner understand in order to have a successful renovation project. Whether that's in an apartment building, whether that's in a quick flip that you're going to put back on the market, you got to understand this system from start to finish. And so there's some mistakes that a lot of people are making, and there's also ways of doing it that are very systematic and very easy and simple to follow. And so we have a great conversation on that today. I think you're going to get a lot of value from this. So if you are really looking to understand the construction process a whole lot more, things you should do, things you shouldn't, right? Finishes, things to ask your contractors, what kind of contracts and paperwork you need to have in place, all of those things, everything under the sun that has to do with construction and that tying into your real estate investing business or model, we're diving into it today. So I'm going to be jumping into that here in 1 second. But for those that didn't download our free resource, mentorship, big part of having success, accelerating your achievements, shortening your learning curves, tapping into the networks and building the relationships with the people who can transform your life, transform your business, often comes through mentors, right? And there are mentors all around you, but you got to make sure that you align yourself with the right mentor, that you ask the right questions, that you show up in the right way, that you are modeling after somebody who has what you want. So I went ahead and created a guide for all of those who want to find their next mentor, maybe their first mentor, 5 critical steps. You can get that free download by texting the word mentors to 44222, or just head over to mattaitchison.com and you can download it there as well. So with that being said, we got some good stuff coming up here in this interview. We're talking construction today. So if you're not interested in construction, go ahead, get off the podcast right now. But if you want to learn how to run your rehab projects like the pros do without having to be a construction expert, but still put out that high quality product that you yourself, one, can feel confident in, that you can ask for top dollar for, that you're going to, remove the liability from yourself by doing it the right way, then this is the interview for you. So let's go ahead. Let's dive in with Thompson Wolff Construction with Clancy and Don Erik. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Six Figure Flipper, the community where integrity-based real estate investors come to learn, grow, and support one another on their journey to financial freedom. I'm your host, Matty A. Today, we got an awesome show, a great conversation for many of you who really often struggle in this area for a few reasons that are easily overcome with the right education and resources and insights, which is what we're going to be diving into today. The construction process for many people happens to be a sticking point, a challenge, a major concern, and oftentimes when not done correctly is where most people have bad experiences and end up really losing a lot of the profits that they had baked into their deal. So I want to make sure that does not happen to you, and that is why I have brought 2 amazing contractors that I've done a significant amount of business with and learned a lot from throughout the years of my flipping career. They've saved me a lot of money. They have opened many doors and many new insights for me with the construction process. So I'm excited to welcome to the show two of my buddies, Clancy Thompson and Don Erik Wolff from Team W Construction. What's up, fellas?
How you doing, buddy? We're glad to be here.
It's awesome to have you guys on. So today, we're going to be talking all about the space that you play in, eat, sleep, and breathe on a daily basis. And this happens to be a space where many people have major pitfalls within their real estate investing business. So before we dive into that process, give me a little bit more of a background, and for our listeners to get a better understanding of who you guys are and what you specialize in, and your experience. Tell us about your business.
I'll let Dee take this one away.
Absolutely. So here at Thompson Wolff, I'm Don Erik Wolff, and we specialize in working with investors. My background started in, I do actually have a physical labor construction background, as well as some real estate background. I got my real estate license. And so I do understand both sides of it, from the buyer standpoint, seller standpoint. And we've pretty much just figured out in working with investors and through trial and error and time and experience, what sells a home, what is the items that you want to look for in selling a home. We've also seen what doesn't sell. So we've built our business around specializing that for investors. That's our primary market.
And now, I think, Clancy, is there anything you want to add to that, brother?
No, I think that's a perfect detailed response of what we are. We just want to we enjoy working with investors, and we like seeing that product from start to finish. So
and many contractors don't necessarily, they do quote unquote remodeling or construction, yet they don't really understand the investor model. And that's one thing that you guys have really carved out an amazing niche for, is understanding how to serve your investor clients and help them essentially get the property in a condition that will be sellable, that will be profitable, while still checking all the necessary boxes from a construction standpoint of putting out a quality product. So let's start from the beginning of this process, from the initial time that, most people start to engage with a contractor. And I know some people have, varying opinions on this. One of the things we talk about in the six-figure flipper community is following a particular system, the rehab roadmap that leads you from one tier to the next, being that there is a method to this madness. And it all begins with the initial walkthrough. I get many questions oftentimes of, hey, during this walkthrough, and we're filling out a repair walkthrough sheet, is this something that we need to have a contractor present with us? Or is it something that, we can fill out the repair walkthrough sheet, create a scope of work, and then have them do it a little bit later?
You know what? I think yes and no. I think initially, Matt, you've been doing this for a while, so I think initially, starting out as a new investor, if that's what we're talking about, and yep, rehabbing properties, I think you need that contractor there, because there may be something, and it's just another set of eyes. That's the reason we do things in pairs a lot. It's another set of eyes. So seeing something that the other person didn't see, looking over something. So I think having that contractor there walking through, just don't get caught up in, and you touched a little bit on hiring the right contractor, right? Don't get caught up in hiring a contractor that's been referred to you from someone who did a kitchen remodel, or someone who did this, or someone who did. Maybe go to those BNI groups and go to those different investor groups and talk to other people who have been doing it for a while, and try to steal their contractor. Try to steal a contractor who knows the inside and outs of the flip. One of the first things that we do with investors, which is a little bit different than what we do with what we call our retail consumer. And our retail consumer, that's your home that you own, that you're living there. And so that's what we're going to refer to as a retail consumer. And then we have our investors and people like that. But I think you need a contractor who can walk in with the mentality of, hey, this is a flip. We don't take the emotion out of it, look at different things. And one of the first things that we do is ask, hey, what do you plan on selling this thing for? So we know what that market is. Is it 200,000? Are we talking to 600,000? Are we talking $1 million? Where are we on the flip scale? and not necessarily what your profit. I don't need to know what you bought it for. I don't need to know anything like that. I need to know what you're going to sell it for. That way I know your finishes. That way I know what we're trying to accomplish here. And if you tell me, hey, it's a rental, it's a turn and burn, let's put carpet, paint, get this thing done and not overbuild what we're doing. But I think actually getting that number, what are we selling it for? And here's what we're doing. And that's where a flipping, not necessarily a flipping contractor, because we do those retail consumer, but someone who understands why we're actually going into this house, not to, we don't have to have crown molding everywhere if it doesn't make sense for this neighborhood. We don't have to have this. So it's not necessarily a dream. It's how do we get our most bang for our buck. So
yep. And that was, a good point to bring up is what are some of the, biggest mistakes and or recommendations of things that work when it comes to flipping a house, right? Are there, what things do you see investors do that they shouldn't be doing? Or what are some of the things that you guys are consistently going back to in order to add value to your client or to essentially help them make more and get a more desirable product onto the market?
I think that one of the biggest steps to start with is obviously having a mentor of some sort. I think there needs to be some sort of a mentor that's actually guiding you through the process, pointing you in the right direction. Then the next step, once you've acquired the property, you figured out what you want to do with it, you really need to bring in that contractor that knows what they're doing and they understand the flipping world. Again, like Clancy said, you don't want to hire the typical remodeling contractor. They're not going to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish there. They know how to go in there. They know how to tear out cabinets. They know how to do granite countertops, whatever it is, but they don't actually understand what your overall objective is and where we need to take yourself out of the picture, where you're simply doing this as an investment. So what you need to do is just remember that it's not your house. We want to put only into it what we're going to get the most money out of without putting a lot of money into it. So it's important to have a good contractor that you can build a good relationship with, that you can also trust. Because you need to be able to trust them and know that their pricing is going to stay consistent and that you can send them in there and walk properties with them, knowing that they're not going to gouge you on different aspects of the project. So it is important to find yourself a really solid contractor so that you can purchase these houses knowing kind of a ballpark what you're going to spend on them. But it's also important to walk with your contractor because there's going to be things, even as a seasoned investor, that you're not going to see, that contractor that you trust is going to see, and they're going to point out the things that are important that should be changed, which may be your health and safety issues, maybe things that come up in a home inspection. So it is important to walk with your contractor to make sure that you're covering all your bases. You're making sure you're not getting change ordered because you have that relationship. You've got a contractor who's thorough, who's making sure that you're not going to get those change orders to the best of their ability. Obviously, there's times where change orders occur. There's things that we can't see. But if you have a contractor that understands your overall image and your vision of what you have and what you're going for, they can try and stay within that budget, because at the end of the day, that budget is what's most important to you. You have X amount of dollars to spend on this house. If we go over that, then that's cutting into your profit, which means it could be a flip or a flop.
Yep.
I don't know the last time we've actually change ordered an investor.
And mind you, that's like the one of the biggest complaints that most investors have is, hey, I thought we were doing this scope of work. You gave me this bid. Now you're giving me a $5,000, $10,000 change order. That's one thing I love that you guys don't do. Now, why do you guys not do that? And why do other contractors do it so consistently? What's the difference there?
I think we're, a little bit looking at that long-term relationship. So I think you need to find someone who wants that long-term relationship. So it's finding that GC who is going to continue doing projects for you. And once you build that, rapport and build a friendship with people, it's a little bit different too. So be detailed. When we walk a new project, we usually walk it once with that investor the very first time. And from there, for the majority of the time, we don't really see the investor a whole lot past besides, hey, here's your finished project and your real estate signs in the front yard. Find someone who wants to do everything too, who wants to include anybody or include everything in their bid. If it comes down to putting the real estate sign in it, we'll do that. From the landscaping to the build to, find someone you can trust. and be very thorough in that walkthrough. Be very thorough in that walkthrough. I mean, we walked a project just the other day. Unfortunately, it was started by a contractor. When we walked it, there was a couple little items here and there that we noticed and layout issues. Well, when we started poking in the wall, next thing you know, there was no wall. It was just drywall in between a hallway. So we actually had to move that wall back, reframe it. It wasn't included in our bid. You know what? It's not that big of a deal. We did have a header. We had a couple studs here and there. We're not looking to also make, this isn't our golden ticket here. We're looking at that long-term relationship, and I think you need to find a GC who does that.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. That kind of brings me to, project managers versus GCs. Where are you spending your money?
Yeah, because a lot of people in the beginning, they think, hey, I need to be involved in this process. I need to learn it. I need to know it, right? And then there's the other people like me who I'm like, I don't want to be involved in it, but I do want to be able to bank on the fact that I have a trusting and, accountable relationship with my contractor, that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. So what are your thoughts on the difference between project management and, just letting the GC oversee it and trusting?
I think that if you're a newer investor and you don't necessarily understand the process yet, and if you're still in that learning curve, I think finding yourself a good project manager that can help guide you on the construction side is a valuable tool. And the reason I say that is there's many investors that we've run into that have tried to be a project manager themselves, managing their own investment properties, and it ends up being catastrophic to the point where not only do they not make any money, they end up losing money. So I would say if you're learning and you're not very familiar with the construction process, either turn to your mentor or turn to a project manager that can help you through that construction process so that you actually have an understanding of how the process should go. And then you can build a relationship with a contractor as over time, that once you have that relationship with them, that will no longer be an issue necessarily to have that separate project manager kind of as a middleman. But I think in the beginning stages, it would be valuable to have a project manager unless you have a contractor that you can trust. And that's the hard part, is in the beginning, you don't know if you can trust them until you've worked with them.
Right.
Contractors aren't, I'm a contractor. We're contractors.
Let's be honest, that they're not that trustworthy. I mean, a lot of them have proven over time, especially let's just say in the real estate investing space, for the prices that we want things to be done in the timeframes we want them done. Oftentimes, if you're listening to this, contractors will overpromise and underdeliver. And that's why it's almost a revolving door for a lot of people. So my recommendation is to really second what Don Erik said, in the sense of when you're first starting out, there are all the different tools within the six-figure flipper community, like Run Your Rehab Like a Pro, and following that process of the 7-stage rehab roadmap. If you follow that and you use those tools and resources to somewhat vet your contractor to hire the right one, and you set your contractor up to win by being clear, and a lot of the things that we talked about in the last few minutes, which I want to kind of go back into, is one thing that it starts with is clear expectations through a detailed scope of work in bid. Yep. Now, this is one thing that you guys do very, very well. And I've seen other contractors be very ambiguous and leave a lot of room for change orders to come in or for things to go wrong. So eliminating the gray area in this process is so important. And by taking the necessary time and steps on the front end, it saves you so much time, energy, and stress on the back end, and most importantly, money. So what answer for us and all of the listeners, what is some of the most important things that you should, as an investor, be looking out for in your bid in order to know that it's an actually good bid?
Budgets.
I would say budgets are important. There's a reason a lot of contractors leave a lot of information out. One might be they don't really know what they're doing. Maybe they're not somebody you want to work with.
Right.
Two, they may leave it open because they want to give you a low number, and they want to have that gray area because they want to get their foot in the door. They want to give you a $40,000 bid when they know it should be 60, but they want you to sign the contract. Once they sign the contract, start work, they're going to change order you for the other 20 anyway. And they leave that gray area in there on purpose. It's intentional. So I would definitely make sure you have, especially when you're working with a new contractor, a good solid scope of work. Make it an exhibit as part of your contract if you need to. That outlines specifically the details. And that's where on your end as an investor, it comes in. Make sure you have a very thorough scope of work, detailed for every room, what type of door handles you want, what type of finishes. And once you have that relationship with a contractor, then you don't need to take that time and be as detailed. Once you have that relationship and you can trust that contractor, you know that you're on the same page. And if it makes you comfortable to keep that in there and do that anyway, then that's fine. Yeah. But at least in the beginning stages, I'd say it's very important to have a very, very, very detailed scope of work so that there is no gray area. There's budgets in there. Make sure that there's budgets for, if they say install a front door, okay, well, how much is that front door going to cost?
Right. And
paying for it. Is the investor picking it out and providing it and delivering it on site? Or is the contractor paying for it? And is the contractor giving you a budget of $300 or $400? Or is it $800? So taking those questions out and having it solid and not a gray area is really going to help you, one, stay on budget, avoid change orders, and at the end of the day, hold your contractor accountable.
And those are items, we don't mean budgets for, you don't need budget for drywall.
Right.
Finish the drywall, texture the drywall, that's about it. You need budgets for things like that front door. I mean, because do I want a $200 door? Do I want a $1,500 door?
Right.
You need budgets for, what type of windows are they going to put in? You need budgets for cabinets and appliances. Are we doing Wolff appliance stoves for $6,000 or are we putting in a $1,200 stove?
Yeah. So it's important to have those budgets set in place for those specific items. If you have lighting, contractor says, hey, I'm going to install lighting. Okay, well, what kind of lighting?
Did he go to HD Supply or is he going to Lamps Plus?
Are we putting in a $50 light or are we putting in a $1,200 chandelier? Yeah. So it's good to be on the same page, and it avoids, any discrepancies. It holds everyone accountable. It's agreed upon up front so that nobody can be upset about what is being installed because you've already discussed what's going to be installed. You already have budgets in place.
Yep.
And it's a matter of executing it. You've already done all the legwork with a solid scope and good budgets set into the contract.
I think that's where ARV comes in. And so when we ask that number, hey Matt, what are you selling this house for? And you tell me, hey, it's a $500,000. We know this area. We know our areas that we work in. First of all, every contractor should. We know the real estate market. We know, certain comps in certain places, neighborhoods, things like that. We have to keep updated on those things. I think any good GC should, especially who's in this flipping world. So when you tell me, hey, I have a $500,000 house, I know I'm not going to, skimp out on lighting a little bit or put a cheap front door in. It's a $500,000 house. And so I'm going to budget accordingly for, or may only be $200. We have a $500,000 house, and that's going to be a $650 door just for the material. And once you get to know your contractor, hopefully they do that kind of thing for you. It's not just the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
And then you can trust them just to pick the right material. I don't know, and I'm going to call Matt out right now. When's the last time that you picked material, Matt? So,
I can't even figure that one out, and that's by design.
And I think you need to figure out what type of business you want. And we always tell our investors, new investors, old investors, anything, you guys need to go do your job. You need to, knock on the doors, find the projects, and we just want to keep doing projects for you. So leave the job site, let us finish this one, get on to the next one.
Yep.
And we'll bid that next one. So that's your job. Our job is to make sure that everything runs smoothly over here and we get your project done. So find that contractor who's going to do that, build that relationship with them. And the biggest thing is find that mentor. And the 6FF group is one of the best things out there right now. And that's because they have a mentor who can guide them towards that contractor who's going to help them. And you can clearly see by someone's bid. And we've told you many a times, we're willing to help. We're here to help. I know 6FF is all over. So we're based out of Northern California. But we're willing to look over those bids and those estimates and things like that. You can pretty much weed out the contractor who you
may or may not know what they're doing or be quite
And so, guys, this is one of the amazing parts of the six-figure flipper community is it's just that. It's a community of, gurus. And very knowledgeable individuals from all around the country in all different spaces of the real estate investing industry. So, utilizing Clancy and Don Erik just to have them overlook a bid, or if it's somebody in your local market that you're trying to build a relationship with, and you get bids from 3 other people, and you might have one contractor that you feel comfortable with and say, hey, you mind taking a look at this for me? That might be a great way of building rapport with them and understanding how they, bid out properties. And so using the community and using the different people and tools and resources around you to dial in your model is extremely important and very, very valuable. And I love what you guys said about, the process of getting all of this gray area eliminated. So you guys are set up and clear on what you need to do. There's an accountability plan in place, and the investor can go back to their highest producing activities, which is finding and negotiating great deals to send more projects your way. So if there's that win-win relationship where you're finding deals and sending it over to a great contractor, you should not have to babysit them. You should not have to. Now there's accountability milestones, right? And following up just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and there's that cohesive team, but you should not have to be calling somebody to make sure that they're on the job site every day, to make sure that they're picking out all of the right things, right? If it's clearly done and organized like the 7-stage rehab roadmap empowers you to do, then you should feel comfortable if and when you choose the right contractor. So that leads me to my next question is, where the hell are all the great, contractors? Because I've few and far between, right?
They're not easy to find. It's going to take some time to probably find a good contractor, build that relationship. And it may even stem from, finding a good contractor that you then mold into the type of contractor you want them to be.
Right.
They understand, there's not a lot of contractors that understand the flipping world. They're great at building things, but they don't understand where investors are coming from. They don't understand the big picture. And that's going to be the hardest challenge. And it's not going to necessarily be easy, but I think that if you're providing proper scopes, you've got your mentor, possibly a project manager, you're definitely setting yourself up to be on the right track to be successful. So that's the biggest tip I could give there.
Yeah, I think be careful with that. Don Erik's right about the project manager, but you also got to, it's a gray area of just be careful. Don't spend money that you don't need to spend. So building that contractor though, and making that contractor what they should be, or what you want them to be. There's a lot of contractors out there that we know that are, fantastic contractors. They know what to build, and they know how to do it. They just need a little bit of guidance on some of their finish work. They need a little bit of guidance on details here and there. They need, what flooring to pick, what colors to pick, things like that we kind of integrated into our company. But plenty of contractors out there that can do all that. They just need a little bit of guidance. And so one of the things that we have a couple investors. It's kind of rare for us, but a couple investors that still like to pick out their material. And we're not talking, windows. We're not talking doors. Usually we suggest things like that, but tile for the bathrooms, flooring for the overall floor,
lighting,
some of the lighting that is specific to certain areas. There may be, honestly, 6 items throughout an entire remodel that they really want to pick, and send those SKU numbers and put them in the invoice, or make sure they have them in the invoice. So that's something, hey, I want this gray floor. That's my favorite floor that I picked, I saw it. Or I want this tile or this penny mosaic, whatever it may be. We have investors that love to do that. They love the design aspect, and I don't want to take that away from you. That's one of the favorite things that I like about the job. So I don't want to take that from you, but if that's not your model, for instance, Matt, that's not your model. So I'm glad that we get to do it. We get to design all these neat things. It's not my house, but it sure does feel like it. And if that's your model that you want to put SKU numbers and you want to be involved in that, and until you get to that point that you can trust that contractor, that's what you need to do. And have them add that to the invoice. Those are easy things that you can get online. Shoot us one email that says, this is the living room floor. This is that. This is that. They know the exact budget. Now there's no gray area. So that's an easy thing that you can do and get rid of that gray area.
Yep. The materials list and the pricing sheet is always a great way of, empowering your contractor to not have to fill in the blanks and know what you want, so they can bid out the labor accordingly to the materials that you are expecting them to use.
And make sure, I think another thing where some new investors make a mistake is when you give them that list, make sure that they understand that you're not running around town picking that material up and delivering it and things like that, and all the details that come with that material. When you pick out flooring, there's a moisture barrier that needs to go under that flooring usually. So the contractor should know, hey, that moisture barrier is included, but that may be something that there's contractors out there that aren't going to include that, and there's a change order for $1,200. You'd be surprised. We've seen it. So one of those things to look at. And so just do it as much as possible, but you also
clarity, I think, too, is the most important thing that has made our working relationship so well, and where I've seen other working relationships with contractors and investors break down is the clarity and the communication. And that's always been a big foundational piece for any successful relationship. But I'm curious to know from your guys' perspective, because we talked about, hey, finding the great contractors is few and far between. They're out there if you use the right approach and you really position yourself and present yourself as an ideal client to work with. Because, just as much as you're selling me on, working with you guys, have to sell myself on working with you as well, because you have the ability to pick and choose what investors you want to work with, being that you guys are a quality vendor and you guys have, the choice to make as well. So what is some of the things that are red flags for you with an investor that you guys want to steer clear of? That way, the new investors who don't know what they don't know, or can at least, position themselves a little bit better when they present and network and, interview a contractor to work with, position themselves in a way to be presentable as a client to, make that a win-win relationship.
People don't think about that. That's a good thing. I'll let Don Erik touch on it first.
As contractors, one of the biggest things, and flippers, one of the biggest things you want to always keep in the back of your head is the liability of everything, right? You want to make sure that when you're doing things, you do them correctly. You don't want something that's going to come back and bite you later because it wasn't done right. At the end of the day, don't try and cut corner. I mean, there's a difference between, there's obviously different ways that you can do things, and there's right ways and there's wrong ways, and there's different ways to do things the right way. But I would always say stay on the right side of things, because the second you try and do something, you cut a corner that you shouldn't have cut, you shouldn't have cut. You might have saved a couple bucks now, but that $1,000 you saved today might cost you $20,000 a year from now. So I'd say one of the biggest things is just do it right. Make sure you're pulling your permits on things. Make sure your contractor's pulling your permits, that you're not having to pull permits for them. Make sure that the things that you're doing are done the right way. I think that's one of the biggest things, and that's going to protect you and the contractor for that long haul.
And I think going back to the question of presenting yourself to the contractor, make sure there's been plenty of investors that we walked in that say, and so that's why you touched on that subject, but plenty of investors that say, hey, we don't need to pull a permit on this. Let's just get it done. And we're going to walk in and say, hey, pull this permit. That's a red flag for us. I don't want to not pull a permit. I don't want to get red tagged on my job site. I want to pull those permits. I want to do things the right way. So investors, for us, don't say things like that. Don't already give us a bad taste in your mouth. Let's do things the right way. And let's start off on that good foot with honesty and things like that. So don't lie to us. We, in turn, won't lie to you. Things like that.
And again, we're in this for the long haul. As investors, usually you're not trying to get into this business to flip one house and get out of it, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, look at that big picture and just remember that if you're doing things the right way, you're making money. In the long haul, you get to buy more houses. You get to keep doing what you're doing. You're not having anything that's holding you up because maybe something was done wrong. Maybe it came back and bit you later. Maybe it caused some serious problems for you down the road. Do it right. Keep buying the houses. We want you to do it right, because at the end of the day, if you're doing it right, that means you're making money. We're making money. That means you get to go buy another house, which means we get to flip another house. So at the end of the day, let's look at the big picture and keep that in mind.
Try not to tell your contractor, you want to skimp on this to do this or do this. They are the professional. Let them talk a little bit. In that world, anyways, you're the professional on the investing side. So we've all seen. I could maybe just the other day, we walked a house that has been flipped, and a young lady bought it. and she was a first-time home buyer, and she's, now married, moved on to her next house. She rented out. She's going to sell this house, and everything has been called out. Everything. There's ceilings within ceilings that have covered up fire damage.
Built on top of floors to level out foundation issues.
Fix all is a contractor's dream, and apparently everybody believes in that you can level everything out with that and you can fur things up and build. It's just we've all seen the flippers who have done it wrong. Don't be that investor who's done it wrong and get that name for you, because we can all name those people.
Yep.
Within our community who.
So that's a great point, because when it comes to construction, in order to increase profits, people think, hey, I'm going to get away with cutting this little corner. It won't hurt anybody. I've seen some major lawsuits take down some very quote unquote prominent investors in our area because of just that. And so one thing that is a staple of the six-figure flipper community and anybody that operates within it is integrity. We're, like you said, Don, Erik, and Clancy, we are all, at least in my opinion, in this space to create long-term wealth, longevity in the space that we love to play in.
And that's what you need to be in it for.
Absolutely. Right. And so, this is something where when integrity is a foundational principle for what you do, especially in an industry like construction that has so many black clouds over it for the complete opposite, right, of unethical behavior, it makes it that much more imperative that you align yourself with someone of high standards and high integrity in the construction space. So I love the fact that you guys touched on that. And that's something I really want to drive home is integrity. Integrity is something that should drive everything that you do, as well as, in the long-term picture, as you build a reputation, it's important to make sure that your reputation is synonymous with integrity, right? Because like what you just said, Clancy, I think we can all name, especially as you get into the space more, you understand who the players are. The investing community is small, nationally and locally. So make sure that when your name comes up, your product, your process, the people you align with are all synonymous with integrity instead of the complete opposite.
Well, I mean, not only is it integrity, right? Because that's the number one issue. But it comes down to, are you going to cut that corner and get bit right there at the end with a home inspection and not close escrow? How long is it going to hold you up? Do you have holding costs? Everything like that. So we do our best, our absolute best to, and we have a great working relationship with a home inspector and a pest inspector. So we do our best to make sure those health and safety items get cleared. Make sure a loan can go through. As a VA person, can they get that VA loan? As an FHA, can they get that conventional? So there's so many things out there that your contractor as an investor needs to look at as well. We now have rules here in California. Well, we have rules for everything in California, but all the health and safety items that have to be up to code, the lithium-ion batteries and all your smoke and CO2. Those are things that we do in every house now.
It's just automatic.
It doesn't matter how new the smoke detector looks. We're going to change it because most likely it's going to get called out, especially if it's not a lithium-ion, even if it's 6 months old. We can't change the batteries anymore. They're 10-year life. So things like that, your TP valves on a water heater, straps on a water heater. I mean, there's so many little health and safety items that are going to get called out. Let's clear them while we're in the middle of this big project right now and just get it done. So
there's almost always going to be something that's going to come up, whether it's a buyer just trying to get the price down or whatnot. But the more we can eliminate so that when there is a call out, if there are any call outs, when you go to sell the house, they might be trying to get a price reduction. If we've already taken care of those health and safety issues, there isn't really much reason for them to ask for much of a price reduction other than it's just they want you to spend more money, which puts you in a pretty good negotiating position.
I love that. So you guys just talked about something that I think is so important. It's one thing that I love that we are all on the same page with on all the projects that we do. One, you touched on a few must-haves in order to essentially speed up your escrow process so it eliminates any potential delays. I like to call this bulletproofing your escrow, right? What are things that could potentially penetrate your escrow that could make it fall apart? Well, first and foremost, it's the health and safety items, right, that you guys always address and always make sure are accounted for. Some of the other things that we talk about for bulletproofing your escrow are additional things that necessarily aren't a requirement However, if you address those up front and account for those in your scope of work, will give you more leverage down the road when it comes back to your negotiating process. If they request for repairs, or when you're trying to market it for top dollar, you can say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z done. Therefore, the house down the street only has health and safety. Well, we did a clear pest report. We have a 2-year roof certification. We're providing a home warranty. I know I touched on some of them. What are some of the other things that you guys have seen are key kind of bonuses in regards to bulletproofing your escrow?
So I would say, obviously, one of the biggest things, just kind of more elaborating on that, to bulletproof your escrow, if you're also eliminating a lot of the major issues before you even get into escrow. One of the problems we've seen is when a buyer gets a home inspection and there's a lot of red flags on it. We've seen buyers where they leave. They cancel the contract and you're out of escrow. And now you're trying to put that house back on the market. So if you're eliminating a lot of those issues, even if it's not anything you have to do, just simply eliminating anything that might scare away that buyer, then you're less likely to have any issues. You can close, you can move on to the next house. So that's one of the things that I would recommend. Is whether or not you need to do it, I would almost just say, just do it. Put it in your scope of work, because it's going to save you money in holding costs and possible additional repairs, scaring off buyers, pulling a house off the market. Just fix those things that might be red flags for buyers, so that you don't have to come back to it later.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, if we have to go back, I'm most likely going to charge you more. Now I have to go, I have trip charge, I have everything. I'm pulling guys on projects that I wasn't expected to be on. When I give a timeline, usually we try to complete it within that timeline. And so if I can do, the Section 1 repairs now, if I can do smoke detectors now, let's just throw out a number. I'm making things up right now, but if smoke detectors cost me $200 and I'm already there, not a big deal. I'll probably throw them in for free. But if I have to go back and it's a 30-minute drive this way and I have to go to pick things, it's cost savings. You're going to spend more money. Let's just get it done now and do it right. So
it's always better to be proactive on the front end instead of reactive on the back end, therefore causing, like you said, you guys more time and effort and energy to go back and do things that could have been done while on site the first time. So that costs more money for the investor. And secondly, it costs the investor more time and energy to take mind share away from the high profit producing activities and go back here and start talking about all of the, things that need to be done. Your escrow might fall out. You might miss out on the opportunity to close that escrow this month, and it extends another 30, 45, 60 days. So you got more holding costs. I mean, it's this chain reaction. So when we talk about doing the necessary things up front to protect and bulletproof your escrow on the back end, we mean that. It's important because I'll be the first to raise my hand. I have the experience of being on the other side and wasting a lot of time, money, and energy into these and having buyers walk. And so you learn this through the failures. Failing forward, it's always great feedback on what not to do. And this is the process that we have found to be most successful for all other investors, not just me, but for many others who are operating at that six-figure, multi-six-figure, and seven-figure investing level. So as we wrap up, guys, what is your one construction tip for the new investors as they start out? It doesn't necessarily have to be related to the construction process, but it may be how they find or hire, or just in general, their approach of going into this construction process if they may be new or green.
I think, I have a couple here. I think we just touched on being proactive. When you take the emotion out of it, don't overbuild either. Don't overdo. And trust me, there's times where I walk into a house and I'm like, man, I want to do all of this because it's going to be amazing and it sounds great. But if we can do, a $20,000 job and make the same amount of profit that we can do for a $100,000 job, and next thing you know, you have more issues and closing costs and just so many other things that could happen. Don't overbuild. Find that contractor who you're going to trust. Make sure health and safety items are taken care of. Go with colors and certain things that are trending. Pinterest and House is a contractor's friend right now, and it's an investor's friend. It's all the new trending things. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit and do something a little different. It doesn't have to be what you love. So it needs to be what other people love. We're going after the 90% population, not that 10% population.
I think Clancy hit the nail on the head. Remember, it's not your house. Make sure you've got the right contractor in place. Make sure you've done your homework on the property that you're thinking about purchasing, not just the comps of my house could sell for this much, this house sold for that much, but also looking at what kind of finishes did they put. Can I afford to put those kind of finishes in my house to make it an actual true comp? Not just that it has the same square footage, same bedrooms, bathrooms. Make sure the overall image is the same so you actually are a comp. And then making sure it's, line things out for your contractor. Make sure you guys are on the same page. Make sure there's no gray area and follow through with them. Be proactive, check in with them, check on the project, make sure everything's moving along as it should. If there's things that need to be discussed or things that need to be looked at, just make sure you're on top of things. And that's just going to really make sure that everything moves really smoothly for you guys.
Don't skip on the little items either. We walked a house the other day. It had been flipped by a different contractor. And unfortunately, little details matter. Details really do matter. Excuse me. To set you apart. Raising shower. I'm 6'1", so raising a shower head for me is a big deal.
7 feet. Everyone remember 7 feet.
We go 7 feet on those shower heads. Once it comes down, it usually ends up being about 6'6". So raise the shower head, bring the tile all the way up to the ceiling. Little items like that, don't stop it. You're saving 15 square feet, people. So and $100 maybe in tile. So raise the shower head, change the mixer valves. Do those little things. I know too many people who try to say, hey, well, I didn't change the mixer valve, so I don't need a permit. You just pull the permit.
You need
pull a permit, change the mixer valve, raise your shower head, do the tile. Kitchens need to be gorgeous. They sell homes. Bathrooms sell homes. Those details, little details like that, they matter. And they don't take a lot of time. The contractor, if he says it does, you need to find a new contractor. Also, use your mentor. I can't tell you how many times it doesn't have to be Matt. It doesn't have to be. There's other people out there. Get another person's eyes on that. I mean, shoot, we still do that. You still do that. Get other people's eyes. Look at other people's projects. Look at other people. You really need to be involved. This needs to be a lifestyle. You're not a one-hit wonder. This needs to be, it is a lifestyle. And I think the 6FF community, we're a part of it. We love it. We put our input in, and it's fun. And I like seeing all the other people. I was talking to someone in, I think, was it Rhode Island? Someone near Rhode Island had a flip that they were talking about doing. So it's neat to see what they're doing over there, and maybe we pick something up that they're doing over there that's a new trend here. So it's be involved, pay attention to the details, find your contractor. Health and safety items are important, and be proactive.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, we're here for advice as well. Anything we can do to help you guys out. We're very familiar that we've been doing this for a while now, and we understand the overall objective. We've got it down to a T. So anything we can do to help out as well, feel free to reach out to us.
Well, we are forever grateful. I think it's so valuable to have a contractor and a contractor who understands, a group of contractors who understand the investing process, not just from a construction process, but from an investor mindset as well, and what we're trying to accomplish here. So I want to say thank you to you guys for, one, all the amazing work that you do, and two, all of the time and energy that you put into supporting other investors and just raising the standard of how contractors operate. It's refreshing. And I'm extremely honored to have you guys in the community as mentors to me in the construction space and everything that you guys do for others. So for those that want to reach out to you guys, obviously you guys are in the Six Figure Flipper community, and you pour into that family on a daily basis. But if they want to reach out to you specifically outside of Facebook, how can they get a hold of T&W Construction?
Let's see here. See how I can do this. Right there. That's us, guys.
You can reach us, office at thompsonwolff.com.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Shoot us a bid, shoot us anything. We'll look it over. We try to do it as fast as possible. We are a little busy with other investors as well and our own projects, but we will do our best. We have our phone on us all the time. Call us. We'll call you while we're driving. We'll talk you through what needs to happen. So
I love it. Well, you guys heard it from two of the best investing contractors in the nation. I'm going to throw it out there. It's true. I've dealt with a lot of contractors and met with a lot of contractors all around the country. And these guys understand it from a construction process, but more importantly, how to pair that with the investor mindset and what actually needs to be done in the right approach with that whole foundation of integrity and making sure that they're protecting you guys in the long run just as much as they're protecting themselves. So be sure to post any comments or any, ahas or takeaways in the Six Figure Flipper community. If you have questions on construction, make sure to post those in there as well, whether it's Clancy and Don Erik, myself, or all of the other amazing minds within our community. That's why we're here. We're here to bounce ideas off each other, mastermind, utilize the resources and the collective genius that we all have in order to elevate and empower one another to go out and be successful in the real estate investing space. And if you guys want the T&W top 10 rehabbing tips, make sure to check out that resource within the Six Figure Flipper community as well. So until next time, I appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the flip side. All right, so hopefully you guys got some great insights, advice, and just maybe overall understand the process a little bit more. It took me a long time to kind of connect all these dots, right? If you were to look at this like it's a piece of paper with a bunch of dots on it, you have no idea what the picture is, but you just see all those dots. As you go through this process more and more, you're going to start connecting all these dots, right? And then you're going to start to see the overall process, the overall landscape, and how you need to navigate it in a way that's going to be successful for your project, for your property, whatever context we're talking about in the real estate investing space. So with that being said, if you want to connect with these guys, ask them questions, all of their information, all of the resources and things that they talked about in the episode will be in the show notes on the website, mattaitchison.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to check that out in the show description below. If you got some value from this episode and you're on YouTube, hit that like button. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what questions you might have. Drop those comments in the section below. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, be sure to leave a review. Let us know what you thought, what kind of value you're getting from the podcast, because that's how we continue to reach more and more people who want to know more about these kind of conversations, who want this free education, and we want to reach them. And the way we do that is through you. Being subscribed to the podcast, leaving a review on the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel where we're releasing new content each and every week. Free education, want to put out as much of it as we possibly can. So, I remember when I was first starting out, I consumed a lot of this stuff online. And it wasn't always accurate, but at the end of the day, it got me into the space that I was able to start learning and growing and, like I said, connecting those dots. So we're going to keep bringing the value, high quality content from people who are in the real estate investing space and who are doing it actively today. So if you got a guest, if you got a question, you got a topic that you want more information on, feel free to reach out to me. Tweet me at official Matty A, or you can add me on Instagram, connect with me on Facebook at official Matty A as well. With that being said, hosting every week a free training on how you can learn how to flip houses from start to finish. This was one little section today, right? With construction, we're going to be talking a lot more about every aspect of it, from finding the deals to funding the deals to fixing them up to selling them for top dollar and everything in between. So if you want to know more about that, feel free to just check the show description below and you can click on the link there, pick a time that works best for you, pick a day that works best for you, and go through that free training at your own leisure. All right? So thanks again for listening. We got another great guest coming up next week. Stay tuned. Until then, I'll see you on the flip side.